Now, the Labor caucus is reportedly negotiating proposed restrictions on gambling advertising. Keith, the Prime Minister warned there could be unintended consequences if they get this wrong. Firstly, what does that even mean? And do we really need a ban on sports gambling advertising?
Oh, unintended consequences may or may not indicate a lack of donations to the Australian Labor Party. That could be the unintended consequence. But I'll be a bit controversial here, Chris. I actually support a total ban in those hours when kids are away, because I've had any number of constituents come to me, and the one that stuck in my mind was a father who told me about his 6-year-old, and the moment the rugby league started, he said, "Now, what's the odds on the first try scorer, Dad?" Now, I just don't support that. Now, I know free-to-air, this is where they get their money, this is how they pay their bills. I understand the economics, but ultimately, as politicians, we're responsible for some of these things. And what difference would it make if for that period of time when kids are likely to be awake and watching sport, they're not getting slammed by ads from betting companies about how they could potentially get some money on and make a couple of bucks?
So you think it's okay, say, after 9 p.m. at night?
Well, I think there's a time frame where it would be far more appropriate. I think that's right. But, why shouldn't we allow kids to be kids when they're younger? Why do they need to be exposed to this level of advertising for gambling? I mean, you took away the ciggy advertising and they took away the grog and everything else that people used to use. I remember the days of the Winfield Cup. Well, they're not around anymore.
Marlboro man, wasn't he a hunk? Now, listen, Keith, you might want to hold that thought, because Natalia has got herself some research, which is her job, of course. Natalia, what's the research say about the impact of gambling advertising and the impact of removing gambling ads?
So you would be surprised, and so was I, that there is a lack of research on impact on gambling advertising on children and adolescents in Australia. And it's not that there is no papers. There are papers saying there is a lack of research. The closest link they have is they made a conclusion that it's harmful because the survey of teenagers revealed that they want less of it, not that it caused harmful behavior. And again, look, I'm quite personally neutral towards gambling. I'm a responsible gambler. I do my 50 cents bets on horse races.
That's not what I was told when you go to the Melbourne Cup. That was not what I was told.
Well, Melbourne Cup is an exemption. What happens there stays there. But if you look at what's more important in terms of determining the gambling behavior, and what we need to understand, there is gambling frequency and gambling harmful behaviors or risky behaviors. So the fact that you started gambling more often, like if I start betting 50 cents 20 times more often, not going to make it a risky behavior. It's the problem when it becomes risky, as if you spend more than you can afford. And I've looked at other socioeconomic determinants of gambling, and it turns out there is more proof that Asian spouse might reduce your gambling risky behavior than the actual link between the advertisement and harms for teenagers. And again, it doesn't say that there is no harm. There is no research on that.
More research required.
Well, there's a gap.
Yep,
Here
exactly.
we go. More funding.
One last topic before we go any further. WA Senator Fatima Payman has taken a swipe at Labor, her party, and claims she was simply a diversity hire. Keith, as a Muslim woman, was she a quota pick?
Well, I don't need to say it because she already has, Chris. And there's no one who would know more about it than Fatima Payman. And I know Fatima. She's a smart woman, right? She really is. She's very sharp. And her commentary about the fact that the Labor Party oversees absolutely everything they do. And I know that, the union masters make sure they check their ballots before they go in so that things turn out as they're supposed to. I mean, whatever happened to democracy and independent thought and freedom of association and all of the things that on our side of politics we actually believe in and fight for? Well, most of us. I don't need to say anything about Fatima. I think she's said it all, and you can't get a more accurate source than that.
Now, it's quite clear that in the corporate world, as in politics, Natalia, we have so many special selection diversity picks. She's admitting that she was a diversity selection. There's so many. I wonder whether those who are selected that way would be as honest as she was.
Look, they won't, and everyone would like to keep their jobs. So she was brave, but she is also smart. To what Keith just mentioned, I totally agree. She's very articulate, eloquent. I watched the interview, but also she exposed a very big truth and an elephant in the room, which is diversity hires come with diverse views.
Yeah.
And that's what we need to understand. And it goes to politics and the workplace, and neither good or bad, but is there a place for that in politics, and to what extent? That's another question to discuss.
Yeah, exactly. It's still hurting in those very intense Islamic seats in southwestern Sydney for Labor. I'll leave it there. Keith Pitt, fantastic to have you on. And Dr. Pink, great to have you on as well. We hope to see more of you.